Hello, British English with Maria here today with you, and today's episode is on holidays, traveling. A very pleasant topic indeed, and I thought I just wanted to cover my take on things as well as some, other angles that I'm aware on the subject. The reason why I chose this title, The World is Your Oyster, is because I think it has such a beautiful connotation that you can go anywhere and do what you want and just be who you want to be. And I think traveling is a really big part of that, because sometimes we're just afraid to take the plunge to just try something new, to risk. And I feel that real traveling, comes with a bit of risk taking, stepping out of your comfort zone, if that suits you better as a phrase. And to start the episode, I just want to talk a little bit about why we travel. I think the really obvious answer is we want to get away from it all, just change of scenery, go somewhere different. So if we live in a cold country, we want to go to a hot one. If we live in a really hot one, we want to go somewhere maybe a bit colder, or just somewhere exotic and different. So we want to break the routine. We want to get away from our daily monotonous lives. Maybe some of us have exciting lives, but we still want to experience something that's different to what we normally used to what we're accustomed to. And okay, let's think maybe deeper. Why do we want to do that? But we want just a taste of something different, because when you're stuck in a rut and things were a bit the same, this sweet idea of going somewhere completely different, it gives you an opportunity to experience the world and life from a different angle, different perspective, and also to see yourself from a different perspective. So that brings me on to the next point of why we travel. Some of us travel. It helps you see things in a new light, and that's because you're just in a different place. You are away from your sort of daily routine or daily environment that you used to. And you start to see things a little bit differently. And that could be just due to different climate, different culture, maybe just seeing a different lifestyle. Helps you to just have a different perspective on things. And I often find that I get some interesting, inspirational ideas, not always the best ones. Some of them, die as soon as they come back and never are to materialize or be thought of again. But it does kind of inspire you and fill you with that energy and that just spark that you need for a bit of creativity, a different approach in your life. And sometimes I come back and try to apply new things or change my ways, and it's just nice because you have that time away to think, to distance yourself. So that's what they say sometimes: to see the problem and to see something in detail, you actually need to distance yourself from it. That could be in kilometers, but also emotionally, and suddenly you get some fresh ideas. So I think for me, that's the beauty of traveling, and I think that maybe happens for quite a few people as well, hopefully for yourself too. So yes, I think it's definitely worth going away every once in a while. So let's think about how we choose the locations that we go to, right? So we might go somewhere that's nearby. It could be around the corner actually. So we could have like a day away or a weekend away that's in the area, or just a few hours away of a drive. And that could be really nice because the short breaks, they can be a bit intense and tiring, especially city breaks, as you try to cram in as much as possible and see as much as possible on that holiday. But I think it still gives you a chance to just, freshen up your perspective, just have a bit of a break. And I think they say rest is change of routine. So it's not always about just relaxing and doing nothing. It's just changing what you're doing, changing what you're eating, changing your routine just suddenly makes you feel rested, even if you actually feel quite tired. Especially I know city breaks can be exhausting when you try to see everything, all the landmarks, all the sites, try to do everything on any touristic list or tourist list that you should try to tick off, and just do as much as you can. Some people prefer to go away as far away as possible. The beauty of that, of course, is that you are in the other part of the world. It's completely different climate, different culture, different language, just feels so different to what you normally accustomed to, and it can be amazing and refreshing. But for me personally, the downside is, of course, long haul flights, possibly time zone change. And of course, you have to consider the cost, because the further you go away, the more likely you're going to have to ramp up the cost. And it can be pricey, especially if you're traveling with a large family. So that brings me to, who do we go on holiday with, right? So we tend to go with our family or friends, because it's people we feel comfortable with, we feel safe, we feel we can rely on them and trust them and maybe have fun with them, right? Well, with family, there's not really a choice, right? You do go with the family, but with friends, you can choose who you go with. But I wanted to cover another aspect of traveling, solo traveling. And I think these days, it's becoming more acceptable, I would say. I've traveled a lot alone, and that was partially through choice, partially through because I just wanted to go somewhere and no one was available. And I didn't want that to stop me from experiencing those destinations and places and just the joy of it. So the upside of it is, of course, you get to meet people locally. You interact with your surroundings in a way that you wouldn't have. Because when you travel with people, you focus on those people and the relationships with them. Whereas when you're alone, you interact with the environment around you because you have no choice but to do it. So as a result, you do really kind of immerse yourself in the local environment, culture, especially if you're meeting local people. What really helps if you speak a local language even a little bit, because it really does bring you closer with the people, speak to people's hearts and not minds. I know English is an international language, but sometimes it's amazing to just speak the local language. It's you can't experience, there's nothing like that experience, I can assure you. The downside, of course, is that you can feel lonely, unprotected, especially in maybe higher risk countries where you feel a bit less safe. And maybe sometimes you will not meet people. Maybe sometimes it will be bad experience. So there's always that risk, right? And I think that's a general risk with holidays, that we tend to, that's why I think a lot of people tend to go to the same spots, same places, same hotels, same regions. They tend to choose the same place again and again because they know exactly what to expect. So there is no surprise. The downside is, of course, that there is no surprise. You don't discover something new and experience something new. And choosing a place you've never been to before. Yes, you can read tons of reviews on the internet. You can do lots of research in advance, but until you go there, you can't know 100% what that's going to be like. And the downside risk is, of course, that it can be really bad, or you could run into a few unpleasant surprises. But the beauty is that you've discovered a new place, you've opened up a new world, and who knows, maybe that new place will become your favorite new destination. So it's always tricky to balance, exploration, trying something new versus, you only get so many holidays in a year if you're employed or even self-employed. You only have so much money that you can spend. We all have, some of us have smaller budgets than others, right? So that also comes down to the budget. Some of us have much larger budgets, but we're still limited, right? It doesn't matter how big your budget is, you're still limited. So you want to choose carefully because you don't want to be wasting money on a bad holiday. And that's where you probably go somewhere safe and known. But at the same time, is a holiday meant to be just safe and exactly what you know? Well, that's up to you to decide, of course. And maybe you'll mix it, right? You have some holidays in places that you've been to before, and then maybe you risk it and go to somewhere you've never been before. And I think the risk also comes from visiting a country with a culture that's completely different. And I know myself and other people can sometimes have a bit of fear, even phobia, of going somewhere where they might be seen very differently and just treated differently, and they just don't know what to expect. And I think, again, that's the beauty of it. You don't know what to expect and you'll be surprised. So all those aromas, all those surprising elements of a trip somewhere you've never been to before and you just don't quite know what to expect. I think it really enhances your experience of life and yourself, because another reason why traveling is amazing is you learn a lot about yourself. You learn about your own resilience, your own ability to build connections with people, to figure things out, like being lost in a new city and trying to find a way. And of course, it's easier with Google Maps these days, but still, you do sometimes tend to wander around and trying to find a place, and it still instills in you that sense of a little bit of a fear or maybe apprehension. But it's nice, that tingling feeling, especially when you overcome those fears and you manage to get around and meet people and have fun. So yeah, I think expanding your own minds, your own mind, your own understanding of different cultures and just of yourself, and learning that you can do something new and scary, it fills you with that sense of fulfillment and satisfaction once that experience is over. So travel away. It's advice I'm giving to you and myself. I think even if you haven't got the money or time, I think just going to a nearby city or even exploring your own city as a tourist, because we tend to get stuck in a rut, right? I used this expression earlier, and just do what we normally do, commute to work, do our usual things, do our shopping, but we don't really experience 100% always what the city has to offer, especially as tourists do, because there is so much to experience, especially if you're from a big city, but even a smaller city, going to the surrounding areas and truly enjoying them and seeing them with fresh eyes and just really taking it in can be a really refreshing experience in its own right. So don't think that your trips have to be big. If you can't afford them, money-wise, time-wise, just a little bit, just a little small trips around, and you'll be surprised how great they can feel as well. And just on the final note, I think one little unusual maybe aspect of traveling these days is couch travelers, right? So we've done that during COVID, especially if you have a nice plasma TV. It can be great to watch beautiful spots in this world on a large screen, from different angles, camera angles that you wouldn't be able to get with your own eyes when you're there, right? From high above or deep underwater. And that can inspire maybe to go there one day, physically in person. But I think even if you don't, I think it's still a great way to learn about the world, to see the beauty of it. Not as great, of course, you can never compare it to the real experience of being there, but it's still better than nothing. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I really enjoyed talking about this. I'm sure there's a lot more to discover about holidays. Feel free to leave a comment about what was your last holiday, what is your dream holiday, where would you realistically like to go to next, and how do you feel about holidays and traveling. Thank you for tuning in. That was British English with Maria. Have a fantastic day.